Welcome to Conversations with Cox and Kielseth, and to be more specific, that is filmmaker Alex Cox and myself, film curator Pablo Kielseth. Alex will join us by phone from his home in Oregon, while I sneak away from my office to call him from one of the projection booths used by the International Film Series, which has been screening foreign and independent movies at CU Boulder since 1941. We will keep our chats to about 20 minutes as we discuss whatever movie-related topics grab our fancy. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, action.
Well, so here we are, Alex. This is going to be our very first show where we don't have Jason here with me to handle audio, and then, but he is going to be here in spirit because I'm going to...
He will be handling the audio later.
Later, remotely. Yes.
Yes.
Right. So that might sound a little bit different for anyone listening.
So we're social distancing. So we're very far apart from each other.
Very far apart. I guess the one advantage is that when Jason was being tech for my audio, we wanted to record things a little bit earlier to accommodate his schedule during office hours on campus. But now that we do not require him to be in the room with me, I am able to tape at a later time from home, and I am having a beer.
And what kind of beer is it that you're drinking?
This one's from La Cumbre. It's I don't know, do they say Malpais or Malpais stout?
Malpais.
Malpais. New Mexican beer, and it's very good. Actually, it's a winner of the World Beer Cup Silver Award back in 2012. Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm drinking a Modern Times IPA. Modern Times is this brewery that it says is based in San Diego and Portland, but I know they have a branch in Los Angeles downtown because I went to it, and they have a number of IPAs. This is called a Mythic Worlds IPA, and it says on the back, beautiful notes of peach, passion fruit, and tropical radness.
Tropical what?
Radness.
Oh, I'm not familiar with that.
R-A-D-N-E-S-S. It means it's rad, Daddy-o.
Oh, got you. Yes, thanks for that
straight from the fridge. Yeah. It is straight from the fridge, too. So anyway, it's very nice. It's a nice beer in spite of the flowery description thereof.
Oh, good. And how's the weather over there? We just got some snow over here in Boulder, Colorado.
We had snow showers yesterday, but today it's been cold and sunny.
Huh.
But yesterday we had some nice snow showers, but not enough. But there's a lot of snow on Mount Shasta, which is good because we could see Mount Shasta earlier today from our walk, and it was nicely covered in snow.
Right. Well, it's been a busy couple weeks over here as we canceled all the 25 unique events that we were hoping to have throughout April, and now we're joining a lot of other theaters and small distributors who are accommodating this. But we're doing these. It's sort of called a virtual cinema option,
and you're not the only one, because I think they're doing the Loft in Tucson and the Texas Theater in Dallas.
Yep.
And the Ashland Independent Film Festival here in Oregon are all going online. They're all doing virtual cinema. So
just to clarify what that means for listeners who might be wondering, well, if your theater is closed, then what does that entail? It means that there's a handful of very nice smaller distributors that are trying to do their best to help independent theaters out by providing some of the movies that they were hoping to roll out through our theaters. But what they'll do is it's kind of like a pay-per-view, but they're gonna split the revenue with the theater of your choice.
Okay.
So, yeah, and it's a little odd, right? Because here in Boulder, for example, Glenn Webb at the Bodecker Theater and I at the International Film Series would oftentimes screen some of the same titles, maybe at slightly different staggered times. Yeah. But, what we had to offer, of course, was the our physical venues have very different things to offer. He's got
the Bodeck is more boutique-y, and they can't show film, so it's a different
right. Well, but they have
theater.
comfortable seats and easier parking, whereas like what Munzinger has is a much bigger screen and the ability to do 35, and so we each have physically speaking our own charms, and right now everything gets kind of flattened out, so it's pretty much. I think it's being left in the to the choice of the patron of the arts, depending on which theater you happen to frequent more often, as to which way you might want to divert some of your movie-going fees or funds. If you have any, this is going to be a very hard time for everyone. I just got a text from the Daily Camera letting me know that CU is looking at a pretty big round of layoffs and furloughs, which I can't help but we shall see, right? But that's where I work, and I'm worried about my staff, and I'm worried about all the people out there who are having to deal with sudden unemployment and big unknowns as to where their paycheck will be coming from, and that being the least of it, of course, because the number one thing is our health, our respective health, and it's crazy right now what's happening. So.
Well, and don't forget, I mean, it is, in the end, it's affecting a lot more people than will die of it. I mean, it's the mortality rate of coronavirus is about 3% or maybe less, or maybe more. But I mean, most people who get it don't even know they've got it. They just get it. They don't show any symptoms, which is why it spreads so much. And then there are the vulnerable people who get it and get really sick or die. Yeah.
So far, it just seems to be a really hellacious ride from all the accounts that I've seen or heard of. There's actually a couple folks here in Boulder who've attended the IFS, and they were just featured in the Daily Camera as being, they presumptive positive for COVID-19. And I say presumptive because even though they had all kinds of symptoms that led the doctors to say, yes, you have it, they were not given the test for it. So even though they've made it through they've gotten through the worst of it, but they're still at home and sort of recovering, but they still don't know if they actually had COVID-19, although the doctor said, yeah, you probably did.
And is this not an indictment of the living in the richest and most powerful military power the world has ever known, that there aren't enough tests? We don't have tests.
Yeah,
we can't test people because there aren't enough. So
absolutely.
It's just a panda flipping-monium. But I mean, now, like 75% of Republicans think we should have single payer? I mean, it's pretty insane. I made that statistic up.
I was about to say, what are your sources, sir?
I think it was 75% of Democrats, actually, but it'll be Republicans before too long. Everybody's going to want single payer, and it's got to be single payer for people who aren't even citizens or in the country legally, because they can get sick too.
I think you're being optimistic. We'll see, though. We need such a massive reworking of this patchwork system that we currently have that is woefully underprepared to handle a problem of this depth and magnitude. That is for certain. But boy, I'll tell you who's happy right now is the company Zoom, huh?
Oh, Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos is laughing all the way to the bank, although he probably never goes near the bank. But I mean, can you imagine all the deliveries that are taking place now that the stores are closed?
Oh yeah, I'm seeing. I think they've run out of cardboard already, and there's because they've had to amp up production. I see 5 or 6 times as many Amazon deliveries on my street now than I used to. So
and we live near Highway 5, as you know, on the interstate, and boy, there's a lot of trucks on the interstate, and it's like they say, everything whatever it is, it came on a truck, And, yep, it's
and
true.
Did you know that because you sent me a couple links regarding Zoom. I just heard that they went from a number of 10 million users a couple of weeks ago to 200 million as of right now.
It's amazing. And they have the articles coming out about them, they have like the worst security. They like monetize everything you do. They sell all your stuff to Facebook, even if you don't have a Facebook account. I mean, it's like an outrageously bad company, and of course, now everybody must use this proprietary software. But isn't there an open source equivalent? I presumably not.
I haven't done my research on that. I just got a email from the CU Boulder College of Arts and Sciences, and the title is New Safeguard Against Zoom Bombing, as opposed to photo bombing. And apparently there have already been, this is an email that was written by James White, who's the interim dean for Arts and Sciences. And he says that during this challenging time, I am saddened to report that some remotely held classes at the University of Colorado have been attacked by hate groups masquerading as students.
Because if you post if you can't let anybody know your Zoom conference. It has to be completely secret. Because if you make it public, then crazy people can, hey, I'm going to go and screw up the university.
It's not just the university. Our friends over at the Belcourt Theater let us know that they tried having a cinema seminar with a lot of people attending, and they got Zoom bombed by racists and who would pepper their Zoom feeds with pornography, I guess. So all kinds of options for the trolls out there. Unfortunately, the trolls there seem to be as many trolls out there, even when there's a pandemic threatening humanity, than there were before. That's a sad state of affairs.
Well, I think also, though it does point, is it the fault of the trolls, or is it the fault of the very bad security with which Zoom was designed?
Yeah, well, I'll say that probably equal measure on both.
If somebody sells me a car that doesn't have locks on the door, and my car is stolen by thieves, whose fault is that? Is it my fault?
Good point.
Is it the thieves' fault, or is it the motor company? Anyway.
Yeah.
Hey, so anyway, listen, what we've been talking about, we had a conversation the other day, and I want to address the issue of whether it's moral or not during the time frame of plague that we're now in.
Yeah.
Is it moral or not to take advantage of everybody sitting at home, unable to go to the cinema, to crowdfund a feature?
Well,
For example, if somebody was going to make a feature, say.
Well, but Alex, all these production companies have shut down their actual, because people are having to separate, and I know that Guillermo del Toro had to shut down his production of his reboot of Nightmare Alley, which we had discussed previously.
Oh well, yes, of course, everything's shut down right now. We're talking about fundraising and doing pre-production so as to go into production when we finally get out of lockdown. Unless, of course, we shot all the film individually with the actors in their apartments, and the whole thing became like an interactive social distancing feature.
Well, here's the problem with that, Alex, is that already I find that my life has turned into what I have called a mash between Robert Altman's Nashville in terms of overlapping dialogue and Mike Figgis's film Time Code, where it's, you have like these, the Brady Bunch type squares on the screen. And we're already living that. I can't imagine anyone would want to actually revisit a film that would put them back in that atmosphere after however many months of having to endure this, this particular self-quarantining that we're having.
And that's another argument against it. On the other hand, it just depends, because some aspects of self-quarantine are not that bad. We're not on airplanes right now. None of us is in an airport.
That's true.
That in itself is a wonderful thing, I actually got, it's funny because all the American airlines have been silent on this. It's like they're giant monoliths, too great and important to communicate with their customers. But I got an email from the head of Iberia, the Spanish airline, saying, we're sorry that we have to inform you that we've shut down all our services, but we've done it really because nobody wants to fly. And I thought it was just such a great email because I just said, nobody wants to get on airplanes right now. It's voluntary response to climate change in a very, very positive and clear way.
You're
and
saying
in a way, if the government wants to print money to keep United and American and Delta afloat, well, let them. I mean, as long as United pass the money on to their employees and don't fire them.
Well, right, but you're saying two contradictory things there, because you're saying it's a good thing that they're grounded because it's good in terms of a smaller carbon footprint, right? And
yes.
Pollution. But
and it's good that the factories in China had to shut down and aren't making all those plastic and metallic and electric G-jaws that we like so much that then go in the containers.
But you're saying you're okay with the bailout for the airline industries as long as it's just keeping the employees with paychecks as opposed to
Absolutely. I love the employees of United Airlines, and I'm sure that all the employees of Delta and American and Southwest and all the other airlines are equally nice, and there's no reason that they should have to suffer because of this crisis of unpreparedness that we're suffering through. So, I mean, yeah, of course, it's just printing money, isn't it? I mean, just like us, if you heaven forfend that you or any of our dear colleagues at CU should be furloughed, but then you're going to go on unemployment and it's going to be subsidized by the federal government, printing money for the first time, not to subsidize the banks and not to subsidize war, but printing money to subsidize the population. Yeah,
well, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I also hear that there are people who are trying to get through to the unemployment agencies and they're on hold for 4 hours and then get hung up on and aren't even able to get through because of such a bottleneck.
No, you have to do it online. You have to sign up online because funnily enough, this is also an amazing thing, which I imagine everybody in this situation already knows. But I've got this flyer from Screen Actors Guild, Directors Guild, Writers Guild saying that for the first time ever, independent contractors are now available for unemployment.
Oh, wow.
I've never signed up for unemployment insurance ever because I don't have an employer. I'm apart from the brief time that I worked at CU, I've always been an independent contractor. And now we can sign up for unemployment. But so I went online at Oregon today, and what they say is don't call us because even though we've tripled the number of people on the phone, we've had 10 times as many unemployment applications in the last week as we had in the last year. And so you just got to do it online.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But don't give up and even if they haven't got it together online, the federal government has agreed that independent contractors can get unemployment. And that's because of the gig economy, because of all the poor individuals who have to work for Uber and Lyft,
Sure.
and be delivery people, for Jeff Bezos, and so it's there's a lot of positivity going on here. If only we can access the money that they say they're going to give us.
Boy, I hope you're right about some of the possible and optimistic changes that might come out of this horrific calamity, but I can't help but feel that we're just going to descend into plutocracy plus, where it's, it is going to be just Bezos who's going to have the entire, run of the ground. And
the oligarchs are going to make out like bandits, as usual. That's definitely true. But we're talking about the obvious need for universal health care and essentially we're talking about minimum basic income, at least for the duration of the crisis. Unless, of course, you're so unfortunate that you're homeless, or you don't have a social security number, or the federal government doesn't have an address to contact you at, in which case, you're still horribly screwed. But at least the idea that the principle of a universal basic income is suddenly on the cards.
Well, one can hope. Hey, since we only have a few minutes, I wanted to ask you, this is just out of my own curiosity, because I know that the JFK assassination is something, a topic that you have written a book about, and it's something you've studied.
The President and the Provocateur, a splendid book available in the United States from Feral House, a splendid publishing company.
Well, I assume that you know that Bob Dylan just released a 17-minute long song, which I believe is his longest one yet, that is ostensibly about JFK's assassination. It's called Murder Most Foul.
I'm loving it, and I'm just wondering what all those assholes in the mainstream media who've been telling us that, conspiracy theorist is Alex Jones, conspiracy theorist is alt-right. Well, all of a sudden, here comes Bobby Zimmerman, and he's full-on conspiracy theorist. He's saying, no, when they killed Kennedy in Dealey Plaza, it's they, you know. Yeah. And don't pretend otherwise. Or if you're afraid of that reality, here come the Beatles to hold out your hand.
I saw that too. Yeah, rub-a-dub-dub. It's a mystery most foul.
Yeah, and he even references number 6 at one point. I think it's somewhere about 14 or 15 minutes in. He references The Prisoner. It's a long song, but it's kind of cool.
It's worth revisiting, and if you haven't heard it already, you should definitely listeners should go and hear Bob Dylan's 17-minute long Murder Most Foul, because there's a party going on
because it revisits the outrage of, I think it was somebody, a comedian like Mort Sahl or Lenny Bruce or somebody said that Kennedy was shot down like a dog in Dallas, and all of a sudden he had no friends. You know, nobody stuck up for Jack Kennedy. Nobody said this is not even his own family, because they were afraid. And boy, man. I mean, you can say, oh, well, that's when everything turned for the bad, you know. But I think that the Kennedy assassination and the cover-up of the Kennedy assassination by Allen Dulles, former head of the CIA, whom Kennedy had fired, and the ability of the lousy doofus Warren Commissioner Gerald Ford to become president because they couldn't trust Nixon anymore. Man, we've been living in a non-democracy at least since 1963.
That is obviously given, you know, obviously you wrote a book on it, so this could be a whole separate, much longer podcast. But ours is a short one, meant for the digestible sort of 20-minute tracks that we promised. So I think we're at that scope right now. Alex, I hope you were safe and sound with Todd there in your home in the woods. And if this works and I don't flub it and I get this tape to this audio tape to Jason, hopefully we'll have it up sooner rather than later.
Hey, well, listen, Jason should add since Jason too has an interest in the production of Repo Man 2, since he'll be the assistant director on the project. Let's ask him what he thinks. Let's have him add his postscript saying whether or not he thinks it's moral to crowdfund in a time of cholera.
Well, I would gladly step aside for the next one and let you guys both hash it out. It'd be kind of nice for our listeners to hear Jason's voice too. So I'm amenable to that.
Well, let's do a tripartite one, or a duology, whatever you prefer. I'm at your disposition as always.
All right. Well, I'll talk to Jason, because I think that would require speakerphone, which might be a little weird in terms of the audio. But we'll figure something out.
It just depends on which one of you has to stay in the patio, which one of you gets to sit inside. You know.
Well, it's getting a little warmer later this week, so maybe the patio won't be a bad option after all.
Okay. Good.
All right, sir.
All right. Well, listen. You stay. You and all your loved ones stay safe and healthy too. And I send you lots of love.
All right. Good to talk to you, Alex. We'll talk later.
Likewise. Good.
All right. Ciao.
Bye.
And cut. Okay, that's a wrap.
Thanks again for joining Alex Cox and myself today. I'd like to thank Jason Phelps for handling the audio and Ted Thacker for letting us use the intro to his song, The Ballad of Slim Cessna, for the musical cues that bookend these conversations.